PWC gets its water from two sources. One's the Cape Fear River, and one is the Glenville Lake water plant, which is behind us. The Glenville Lake Water Supply Watershed is a series of 4 lakes located between Bragg Boulevard and Murchison Road. The uppermost lake being Bonnie Doon, and it's up near Fort Bragg. And then we have Cornbow and Mintz Pond and Glenville. And within that watershed, PWC owns about 3,000 acres of land around those lakes. And what we do is we try to, that's the drainage area. All the water from Bragg Boulevard, Murchison Road drains into that drainage basin, and that's what we call the watershed. What we do is we try to manage the land around the lakes and minimize the pollution from the runoff, from the stormwater and that kind of thing. Some of the things we do, number one, we provide security for the watershed. Most of the watershed's fenced off, and we try to prevent unauthorized access. Each lake has a dam, and we're responsible for going out and making sure it's intact, there aren't any problems, taking care of any maintenance needs on the dams, mowing them and that kind of thing. We do water sampling to test for water quality all over the watershed to make sure the water that's in the lake system is clean and suitable for use as a drinking water supply. We do things like fix erosion problems, respond to customer complaints, and another sort of big part of what we do is dealing with stormwater that comes into the watershed. That's where most of the pollution that gets in our watershed comes from. It's even though there's about 3,000 acres around the lakes, it's kind of in a pocket, which is right in the middle of the city, and all around it is very highly developed, highly urbanized land, so there's a lot of stormwater. So one of the things that we've tried to do is to find ways to minimize the impacts of that stormwater on water quality in the lakes. And we decided a few years ago we would look around within the watershed and see if there were some areas that we could install some stormwater control devices to help treat that water before it actually got to the lakes. And we did a pilot one, which is over off of Helen Street, and that one's already in place and can be visited by an appointment basis. We do school tours and that kind of thing over there. But basically the purpose of these stormwater ponds is to capture the first inch or two of rainfall that comes through that basin, and it captures some of the pollution in those stormwater ponds before it actually gets into the lakes. So after we got our initial test detention pond done, then we went and found a couple of other locations that we thought might work. And we applied to the Clean Water Management Trust Fund for some grant money, and we were awarded a grant to do the design and acquisition and construction for 2 stormwater ponds. The first one is what we call Site 17, and it's located off of Pamela Drive. And the second one is Site 25, and it's located off of Thelbert Drive, which is near Fayetteville State University. All of our activities, everything we do, has an impact on water quality. And particularly for people living in the water supply watershed, you know, every time we throw yard waste over the fence in the backyard or in the gutter, or every time we put fertilizer on our lawns, our pesticides, or when we change the oil in our vehicles and we don't handle it properly, or just simply taking your pet for a walk. All that waste every time it rains, it runs into the storm drains and eventually winds up in our lakes and streams, and that's what causes the majority of our water quality problems nowadays. And so we just all need to be mindful of how our activities can impact water quality in general, and also remember that everything we do goes into the water supply system, and ultimately we have to treat it and take it out before we can put it back into the drinking water supply. So it costs more money to treat it the more polluted it is. PWC's approach to providing clean water to the citizens, we have a multiple barrier approach. For the first, and that's part of what our watershed program is about. It's about providing barriers to make sure the water we provide is clean and safe. And the first barrier is protecting our source water and making sure that's clean. And then we have multiple barriers of treatment through the water treatment plant. And then we have a very rigorous testing program where we test the water in the raw water, the water as it moves through the treatment process, and the water once it gets into the system. We test hundreds of locations a month for water in the distribution system to make sure it meets all state and federal rules and regulations. And I think the public can be very confident that PWC does a very good job of providing the safest drinking water possible.